what's going on? Good morning, everybody. I'm coming live and direct to talk about something that Bill Maher said recently on his network that the internet is currently freaking out about. I'm going to wait about 10 seconds for people to get in, and then I will begin explaining what I think, and then let me know what you think. So I'll wait 5 more seconds. And throughout this broadcast and whatever in the comments, I please ask you, just don't write out the N-word. Don't say it. I get if you want free speech and whatnot, that's your personal choice. If you want to yell it in your backyard or talk to your family, but I ask very kindly, just don't write it in the comment section. That's just a personal preference. So Bill Maher made a joke on his network and said the N-word, said, "I'm a house." And, a lot of people are offended by it. Personally, I'm a little biased. I don't like Bill Maher. I think he's a shill for Hillary Clinton, and he lost a lot of his mojo when he just became a spokesperson for her, and he shuts down intelligent guests. And I saw it. At first, I just thought it wasn't that funny, and I thought it was just a little inappropriate personally. But it's one of those words I really think, me being, I'm Italian, Polish, and Puerto Rican, I just don't say it because what's the point? There's millions of words for me to use. If you choose to use that word, that's fine. I think we have the freedom of speech. I think political correctness has gone so far, but with Bill Maher and Kathy Griffin, I think what people need to realize is you have the freedom to say and do what you want, and other people have the freedom to react the way they want to react. And to me, it's kind of just weighing things out. What do you gain from saying the word? Are you gaining a lot? Or are you going to make more money? Are you going to make more friends? Is your career going to skyrocket by using the N-word as a, non-African American person? No. So you have pretty much nothing to gain and everything to lose. I think people like Louis C.K. use it, and, it can be funny when I see Louis C.K. do jokes and he says N-I-G-G-E-R with the hard E-R. To me, it's not really that funny. So it's like, I think it's overrated in my personal opinion, and you're allowed to think that it's not. I think that everybody has the right to feel a certain way, but it's just a bad situation because, one, the word has a very, very harsh past, and then it was used in a positive light. So it started in a negative light, and now it's used in a positive light, like say in rap songs. I think you should be allowed to say it in rap songs. One situation that I thought was kind of ridiculous, it was like Alec Baldwin or somebody like that. I don't even know if it was him, but he said the name of the song, it was Kanye West's song, In Paris. And it's like, you gotta throw a bone at some point. If it's in all these rap songs and it's the name of your song, you can't yell at somebody for saying the name of your song. Like, why? How dare you say that? It's like, you named the song that. It's all in the lyrics. So for people that are non-African American, you got to throw a bone at some point. So it's like, if in rap music, I think it's okay if it's the lyrics. Kids that aren't African American should be able to rap it and say the name of the song. But as far as jokes, I think I go to comedy shows a lot, and my personal opinion is, if you say something that's racial or sexual, all these things, you're allowed to say it. You're absolutely, absolutely allowed to say it. Anything goes in comedy. You can say anything. I think that people should be allowed. We can't censor or monitor people for saying it. But same thing with when I go to comedy shows. It's like, if you say something that's very racial or very racist and it's not funny, then it just sounds racist. Like, you have to balance it out. If you're going to say something really racial, it has to be really, 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 really funny, so everybody laughs, and it's like, wow, that's a joke. But if it's 0% funny and 100% racist or offensive, it's not going to end well for you. Like Kathy Griffin, it's like nothing about that was funny, and it was 100%, kind of threatening and grotesque and just the wrong time. So she's held consequences. She's held accountable for her actions. She has the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, and the rest of the world has the freedom to not like what she did. Bill Maher has the freedom to say that, absolutely. He's a comedian. He could say whatever he wants. But now, millions of people have the freedom to oppose it. And I already know how the world works. I already know how America works. There's millions of activists who are looking to get triggered off of any little thing. So of course, when you say something that's that, black and white, that in front of you, people are going to get offended and mad. You take that risk personally. As a comedian, as a person, if you want to say that, that's fine. I think Bill Maher could say it 1,000 times if he wants, but then he has to deal with the consequences. And I just think it's one of those things, like, personally, you have the freedom to do it, but I don't. Like, I could do anything. I could walk around, talk shit to anybody, say any word I want. I have the freedom to do it, but the universe works in a way like that. For instance, I make hip-hop music myself. I used to say faggot, F-A-G-G-O-T, and gay a lot more, and then I just realized why. I wasn't specifically censoring myself like, oh no, they're trying to keep me down, I can't say those words. I just feel like at a certain point I was like, that's just like a lazy comedian saying something lazy, that's a lazy word to use. It's offensive to people, and it's not creative, and it's not good, so I stopped using it. And I saw in the comment section something I wanted to touch on too, for people that are offended by what Bill Maher said, or even, what's going on anytime. Like when Tracy Morgan said something, I think he said something about his gay kid, everybody freaked out. People need to understand that also, we give power to words. If someone says something to me, I read a comment the other day, and it was like trashing me, but I thought it was hilarious. Like, I thought it was really funny. It was girls talking, and they said something really, really rude, making fun of me. But at the same time, it was like a weird compliment. Anyway, I thought it was funny. If I was a very sensitive, person to things like that, I could have got upset. It could have ruined my day. We give power to what's said. If Bill Maher said that, or someone did something and no one cared, it wouldn't be a big deal. But like I said, I know there's people who live in that reality of, getting offended over everything. So, to me, you're allowed to have your own opinion. Mine personally is, it's one of those, anytime you have a word that people shouldn't say, there's going to be people who say it for shock value, but you have to live with the consequences. And I think in our culture, absolutely, and now it's interesting to see someone that's quote unquote like liberal, a big Hillary supporter, kind of get the same flack that other people have been getting, like conservatives and, libertarians or even third party voters. Because anytime you have a word you can't say, and then also, like, for instance, I've said this a few times, if you're black or Latino, like, I could say I'm proud to be Puerto Rican, I'm proud to be Latino, I'm proud to be Italian, but you could be proud to be black and proud. But, if you say you're white and proud, people call you a white supremacist, or like you're a neo-Nazi. People call me racist, and I'm even on this subject, you can see like I'm the complete opposite. I'm very kind and considerate in everything I do, and I still get called names simply off gender and race. So I think there needs to be a balance. While I think people can be respectful and maybe not say something that might offend somebody, if there's nothing to gain and everything to lose, maybe just don't say it. But at the same time, the other side needs to realize, like, there's an army of like millions of Twitter activists who their whole reality is getting offended. Like, their whole lifestyle is like, they search in the world every day. There's millions of things that are going good, millions of things that are going bad. They like pinpoint and just try to look for the worst things and then make a huge deal about it. Even someone like the ACLU, they're getting big now with the Muslim ban, and their whole reasoning for saying that Trump's Muslim ban is unconstitutional is not because it is, but because he said something, and now they think that it's racist based off what he said. So it's like, we need a balance, I think. It needs to be a balance of being considerate and respectful to people, and just, not crossing a line, and at the same time, not losing sense of like reality, and also being able to say what you want without being censored and offending people. But so I think this Bill Maher one's an interesting one because it's not so concrete like the Kathy Griffin one. I think on a certain hands, you run a risk of everybody getting mad. That as a comedian or as a white male. Everybody's already mad at you. That's the way the world is now. Kathy Griffin did her little press conference yesterday, and she's blaming old white men. Like, apparently nobody else is responsible for anything anymore. It's white males. Like, Kathy Griffin can't do no wrong. She's a woman, and she's been convinced that women are perfect, and she made no mistake. And as far as the Bill Maher situation, I think you could say that, but you also have to deal with the consequences. And I think him saying that and people reacting is like a nonstop thing. To me, it's kind of silly, and it's, people just want to argue. And things like this really make me think. I'm like, you know what? It's really not the politicians that divide us. They do their part with the media and whatnot. I hold them accountable, but people just love to argue. They love to get offended. They love to be divided. We could easily find common ground and be like, you know what, whatever, and then explain why you're upset and be like, listen, you shouldn't say that for this reason, and then we could find a middle ground and be happy. But that's not what people do. People get offended. People love to divide. They love to argue, be like, act like it's the end of the world. And to be honest, it doesn't matter who's president. It doesn't matter if it's Trump, Hillary Clinton, or, an alien, Jesus Christ. It doesn't matter who's president, because some people just live in that reality of being offended. So, like I said, personally, I just don't say the N-word. I've never found it appealing. In comedy, I don't personally think it's funny. Sometimes I go to comedy shows. You're allowed to say anything, but you got to make sure it's really funny. That's just my feeling with comedy. If it's racist or sexist or, anything that's really pushing the boundaries, make sure it's really funny, because if it's not funny at all, then it just sounds a little weird, I don't think Bill Maher's joke was the not funniest thing ever, but say the Kramer incident, he was freaking out and saying all this racist stuff, but it wasn't funny, so it just came off really racist. I see that all the time too with the same with the Kathy Griffin thing. It wasn't funny at all. It was just gross. You gotta, as a comedian, you also have to be funny. If you're gonna do something very, very, very offensive, it should be very, very, very funny. But I think it's an overdue conversation for America, because you have a word that clearly offends people. So my personal thought is, why even bother with it? But at the same time, you have a growing side that I also see that is trying to be so politically correct that they're actually being even worse. A lot of the Twitter activists that are I'm standing up against racism and sexism, I find them to be the most racist and the most sexist, more racist than the people that they're fighting. So I think you can't fight racism with racism. I don't think you can fight sexism with sexism. And I think if you live in a reality where your role on this earth is to get offended by everything and cause the biggest scene, then that's your reality, that's your zone, that's not mine. That's how I feel about it. I'm going to read the comment section, and if it gets too ugly, I'm probably just going to delete this video, to be honest, because it's one of those subjects I don't even like to talk about. Everyone's got their opinion, but I posted an article about Bill Maher, and everybody oh, I'm going to say the N-word now because I have freedom of speech. Yeah, okay, you could say that, but I also have the freedom to think you're kind of a douchebag, and now you're being divisive. What started with, all right, Bill Maher could have not been divisive if people didn't react. Now you're making it more divisive by just saying the N-word, just to be look, I could say it. It's a battle of the dummies. I'm sorry, but who could be dumber? It's oh, he says it. Is it the biggest deal? No, but now everyone gets offended by it, okay? So now there's millions of people who are offended by it. And then people come from the other side look, I could say it just to offend them more. It's I personally try to avoid conflict unless it's necessary. Why say it? Why try to make people mad? I've seen people in the comment section, and it had all these thumbs up. I know I attract different audiences. I have conservatives, progressives. I have people of all races, religions, and genders that reach out to me. But I just think it's goofy to just say it just to say it. Well, why don't, if you have the freedom of speech, why don't you go say something important, invent something or help somebody. Like, why use a word that's offending people and clearly hurts people's feelings? If your existence hurts people's feelings, which is also the case, some people they're just racist and sexist, and they hate a white male, or they hate a white woman, or they hate anybody of any race or religion that doesn't agree with them. That I'll stand up for you. That, I hold my ground, where it's like, you can't be offended by someone's pure existence. You can't blame all men or all of one race. That's racist and sexist in itself. But at the same time, I think we need to, everybody needs to sacrifice a little bit of something in order to really cooperate together. So, that's my personal thought on the word, on people freaking out about everything. Real quick before I leave, I want to say, I know Tracy Morgan said something 2 years ago, and everybody got really offended that he said, if my kid was gay, I would kill him or something, in a joke. And at first I was like, you know what? I think people are being a little ridiculous. Like, I get that that's mean and that's messed up, but he's a comedian. Comedians are allowed to say anything. But then, to be honest, I watched the Tracy Morgan stand-up this week. He has a new one on Netflix, and I thought it was totally just not funny at all. So I understand why people got offended, because it was like 100% offensive and weird, and it was like 0% funny. So once again, you gotta be funny. You can't just be like, I'm a comedian, I could just say whatever I want. Yeah, that's all good and dandy, and I will protect comedians for sure, because I do think you have the freedom of speech when people are being irrational, but you also should be funny. Like, no one ever bothers Louis C.K. Louis C.K. said the N-word 100 times. No one ever gets mad because Louis C.K. is actually funny, and he's like a likable person, so no one even mentions it. Dave Chappelle does a bunch of really edgy racial stuff where he has white people saying the N-word in his shows, and no one cares because it's actually funny. So, Bill Maher, maybe you're just not that funny. Maybe you're not that likable. I don't think it was the worst thing I'd seen on Bill Maher, but at the same time, I can't really sit here and defend him because I don't like Bill Maher. He has the freedom of speech to say the N-word, that's fine. Yeah, you can do that, but he also, in my opinion, blocks other people's freedom of speech. Yeah, it's his show, it's his program, but anytime anyone intellectual comes on, he just makes it so one-sided. I could care less about Bill Maher, so I think, people will hold him accountable if that's how they please, but you have the freedom of speech. You can say that. Other people have the freedom to react how they want to react, and comedians should be funny. That's my thought. Let me know what you think without being too weird in the comment section. Thank you.